Welcome back to Newsmaker Live. We're here with Dr. Ubaldus Raymond, former Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Commerce. And we're going back to a previous caller who was making the point about that Moshi meeting. And he said that you did not make a contribution. You had indicated you were not able to make a contribution. But was there anyone at that meeting who made a contribution to the discussion on the economy? If I'm to follow the gist of what you're saying.
I can't recall. Again, as I said, since he brought it up, I don't want to talk about private meetings. That should never be brought up. A private meeting is a private meeting. But I guess he wanted to bring up a point. It was Von Lewis who was in charge of that economic committee. He was the one leading. And as I said to you before, I was expecting, as a member of the committee, to have come in with a broad direction from the leader at that time. Where does he want to take the country? What does he want to see done in the economy? Just broad outcomes, broad directions. And then the committee members would have put specific policies together to arrive at these broad outcomes. But that wasn't done. I mean, the only thing I was asked by Von Lewis, Dr. Von Lewis at the time was to, again, I'm repeating myself, but for emphasis, was to provide an assessment of the local and international environment at the time. Mm-hmm. And that was a manifesto. You can just, one paragraph could have just made it. You know, it's not anything that is detailed. And I spoke about it at that's a meeting. I just spoke about it, and that was it.
We have another call. Good evening. Thanks for holding. Please go ahead.
Hello, good evening, Dr. Raymond.
Good evening, sir.
And good evening, Clinton.
Good evening, sir.
Dr. Raymond, I got your drift. Just listen to you. You'll much prefer a kind of government, a private sector-led approach to governance. And where the state create the enabling environment. I would just want to ask, must the state always create that enabling environment? And how does it work in the big country like the United States? You could look at the Caribbean economic market as a single unit, as opposed to each country surviving on its own, because in the economic environment now, it looks like countries like St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the rest may not have to have a leg on. So do you think the system, the democratic system, which our model of development, the democratic system, is it truly to our benefit? And lastly, I'm one person who against radio personalities or announcers and even politicians to refer to people as party hacks. I know in the United States you call it party lobbies, but in St. Lucia, when politicians and newspaper people and writers refer to those people in a derogatory word, and if democracy is a system you want participation, I think you should encourage participation. And people who support strongfully or heartfully should not be labeled as that. And that's the only disappointment I have with you if you talk tonight. I want you to tell me, how do they refer to those people in the U.S. where they come from, the Republicans and the Democrats? Do they call them party hacks or whatever name? I would just like to know.
All right, thanks a lot for that contribution.
Well, I mean, I guess this is our local parlance here. I mean, party hacks. But there are different ways of calling such people in the United States. I don't think they call them party hacks, but they call them something else. But well, caller, answering your first question, in terms of the direction the country, or not just St. Lucia, by the way, it's I think the Caribbean and developing states. I believe the private sector-led growth should be what we should be shooting for. If you look at many treaties, many like the EPA, the emphasis is a lot about trade. Mm-hmm. It's about open market. And these things are actually promoting businesses. In other words, if you want to benefit from the EPA, you must have a very strong private sector-led economy. You must try to your best as a country to try to attract as many foreign direct investments as possible. Again, this is one way to go again to reduce the burden on the government, to emphasize or to push a lot, attract a lot of foreign direct investment in this country. You are widening the private sector if you do that. That's another strategic plan the government should actually undertake, to focus on very strategic, very deliberate foreign direct investors in this country. And I can talk a little about that. We could strengthen our economy by attracting let's say, the financial sectors. I mean, most of the financial centers in the Caribbean, when I say financial centers, foreign direct investments, financial centers, they are located in northern the Caribbean, the Cayman Islands, BVI, Turks and Caicos, and Bahamas, and so on. Do we have any in the Eastern Caribbean? That is something we could be pursuing, because investors coming for various reasons. Political stability, location is key. And what we have in the Eastern Caribbean, especially St. Lucia, our topography, our climates, and so on, that could be a selling point. That could be one way of attracting people. And we have bright people in St. Lucia. We have a lot of college grads in St. Lucia. And that is one of the attractions that investors would like to see. So I'm saying there are things that the government can do, as opposed to, as you may thought I was suggesting, that the government will come in tomorrow and fire everybody. But it's a process. Again, that's where the development plan comes in. The strategic development plan comes in. What size does the government want to see itself in 5 years, in 10 years, vis-a-vis that of the private sector? And when you have that broad objective, that broad goal in mind, then you can put in specific policies that will help you achieve these goals. But again, we don't have that.
We have another call on the line. Thanks for holding, caller. Please go ahead.
Yes. Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, good night. I speak to what is referred to as the...
Can you please turn off your set, the volume on your set, because I suspect you listen to us through.
Okay, I think I've just killed the cat. Okay, I want to speak to what is referred to as the enabling environment, and how serious governments in the region, and particularly say our own country, how serious are they towards creating that environment? How serious our governments, towards creating that environment? What policies are they really going to focus on to create that environment? And my reason for saying that is we seem to be at the economics for a very long time. We want to remedy poverty. We want to create jobs, but we just don't seem to get it. If we're going to create jobs, it's going to be short-term. It's going to be step. What is wrong with us? If there are people who are bright, and I have a problem, I'm not hitting the public service or the public sector. There are very bright people in this country. But why are all those people in there? These people with these degrees, the qualifications, should be people that should be somehow involved in the private sector and creating jobs, creating economic initiatives for people to survive, and not in their government just depending on a monetary salary. Now, I'm not trying to take away the thunder, what is happening, right now with regards to the union, the public sector, and the government. I think these people deserve to be paid. You understand me? I want to ask Dr. Raymond specifically, what is the rate of inflation in this country? What it was before that, and what is it now that we have the imposition of that? What is the rate of inflation?
Thank you very much. And it's a good thing that he mentioned VAT, because I wanted to get your views on the implementation of VAT as well. So when you answer his question, then we can go into a little discussion, because our time is quickly going by on VAT.
Well, there are many ways. Caller, thanks for your call. There are many ways of creating an enabling environment for business in this country. Number one, when you look at various states like, let's say, Singapore and others. I think what we are lacking in the Caribbean is the institutional support in terms of the research, development, and even academia. Successful countries like Singapore, they depended a lot on these things, these institutions, the universities, for research, for policy, the research and development.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, they were able to create the human resource base that was necessary to attract the businesses. They were able to create the human capital that were able to develop, to create their own businesses. Again, we talk about entrepreneurship. We should really try our best to create more entrepreneurs in this country. But entrepreneurs just can't just come up and wake up in the morning, or people just can't wake up in the morning and become entrepreneurs. There are certain supportive measures that the government must give.
Mm-hmm.
Access to credit, and so on. Even the training that is necessary. The ease of doing business, because most times most times the government or the businesses depend a lot on government services. So the government services must be efficient. Immigration, the process of development plans, the process of creating an MOU for prospective investor, and all the other services that the government, the investors will be in need of. So the government has to ensure that these things are in place to ensure that the enabling environment is right and vibrant to allow the private sector to thrive. You had a question on VAT?
On VAT, yes. I mean, the implementation, there's been a lot of talk. We have never got an opportunity to speak about it. But the implementation in October last year and its effects on the local economy, a lot of businesses are crying that, and a lot of businesses have said that they are closing down or have closed down because, you know, things have gotten so slow since VAT. What is your take on that?
I don't know why the business. I don't know. There are many reasons why a business can close. I don't know. Sometimes
the economy is hard. It's difficult. We all understand.
I don't know. I have not spoken directly with any business person as yet, so I cannot say because of that businesses are closing. But I'm saying sometimes it could be that the management skills of businesses are tested because of the implementation of that. It could be. I don't know. Probably they never prepared themselves for such kinds of of changes. I don't know. That is yet to be determined. Okay? But going back to VAT, I think the idea is a good one. The whole idea is a good one in terms of broadening your tax base, because there are various sectors in the economy that are not paying tax. So the broadening of the tax base is a good idea. What I don't like about VAT is that we are very high import states, aren't we? We import a lot of stuff. And most of our revenues are collected at the ports of entry of goods, our goods. But when VAT is sold to us, when I say us, I'm referring to developing countries most of the time, we are asked to reduce on our import duties. Mm-hmm. This is sure income, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Sure income. But we are asked to reduce on it. And try to recoup the loss in that revenue by broadening your base, which is not guaranteed. So it doesn't surprise me to some extent that the revenues that we were expecting, of course there might be many issues related to that, the revenues we were expecting from VAT, we're not realizing these revenues. How many issues? It could be issues of avoidance and evasion of taxes. People, develop very innovative ways.
Once there are taxes, there'll be a way to evade.
Yes. That could be, people are smarter than the taxman himself. You understand? And it could be also situations where the act need to be tweaked a little, or strengthened to some extent. It could be also that the whole structure of the VAT system is not the way it should be for this country. I don't know. There must be a post-mortem as far as VAT is concerned.
But that is not dead, so
it's not. When I say post-mortem,
I know
in terms of, I should say assessment. That's the right term here. I should be assessment of why aren't we collecting the revenues that we anticipated to collect. That's a good question. That's the question we should ask. So I don't believe either structure of it. I don't think it's right for high import states like St. Lucia.
What would be a better system? Final question.
Well, we should have actually kept the import duties. Reduce, keep the import duties, and broaden it to areas we were not collecting taxes. And even the burden of collecting the taxes are very, very heavy, isn't it? I think we had to employ about 40 accountants or people who have accounting degrees or whatever background in the tax office. It's a heavy burden on the government again. So was this the right move? I don't know.
A lot of questions to answer, a lot still unanswered, and we need to have you back here. But unfortunately, our time has passed us quickly. I want to thank Dr. Ubaldus Raymond, former Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Commerce. And with your permission, let me say or guarantee that you'll be back here sometime to discuss other developmental issues, especially as it relates to government and the economy. Just a program note coming up tomorrow on Do Law Factor Live. Delia discusses something men love and women just don't understand: men's passion for motor vehicles. Together with her guest Mario Reyes from Prestige Auto Holdings Limited, they'll discuss what your vehicle says about you and why people underestimate the value of service and maintenance. They've also got new vehicles to show you and a personal insight to a man who can easily be misunderstood. That is Do Law Factor Live tomorrow evening, 8:30, only on DBS. And don't forget to join